Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias the Guy. Well, lots of stuff going on here. I've actually was going to do an episode yesterday. There's a few people who have reached out to me. And, okay, I don't even know how to really deal with this. Now, I'm not set up to do interviews. I've had a lot of phone calls, and especially a lot of email with different people on a lot of the different subjects that I talk about. I had a teacher reach out to me, being backed by a few others in that person's field, whom became fans of mine. And they really wanted to get the information out about what is really going on in Alberta. And not just Alberta, but broadening the spotlight to across Canada. Now this is crazy. Like, the conversations I've had with these people have been intense, to say the least. Now, my biggest takeaway from that, out of everything that we discussed, was how they fear for their livelihoods, and in an equal proportion, the students to whom they teach, because of the power of not only political influence, but the power of the woke mob and how it has infiltrated every single part of the teacher's life. Now, through talking with them, like I was saying, I'm blown away at how deep this goes. This goes into, okay, so in the conversations, it starts at the universities. From the universities, now they're training these teachers. There's a collusion between the programs and those of the governments that are setting curriculum. And now this is beyond me. This is all, like, I was planning on doing this episode yesterday, but I've got a lot of learning to do on how all the education kind of evolves, the curriculum basis, where it comes from there to the universities, what's being taught to the students, the programs in which they have to study certain things which come from all angles, because there's a lot of therapeutic part of it, like dealing with the psychology of a child, a lot of newer things that we've learned. But every aspect of this has been infected. Now, getting away from that, obviously, like I said, I've got lots to learn here. I got to do a lot of studying. It goes into the union. Now, of all the conversations that I've had with these people, these individuals, these teachers, these educators, the union is one of the biggest issues. It is a cesspool of political interference, mostly left-leaning lunatics. And they're purposely manipulating what Daniel Smith is trying to do. And there are pressures from the Teachers Association, from the union, onto the Public Library Board. They have militarized this book censorship, trying to push out a narrative to not only topple a government, but to hide what is actually going on, which is the and I'm going to say it because I don't believe in the whole, like, there are certain things I won't say, but there's certain things I should have the freedom of speech just like every other media outlet, be it sponsored by the government or not. Now, pornographic material. They have picked out books which they know will raise concern. These books have nothing to do with what the government of Alberta is actually trying to enforce. Now, I'm gonna dabble on this. I'm gonna do, and the way it's looking is it's gonna be probably a two-part. There is so much to the education system. And now, first and foremost, you can own a home, you can own a car, you can own land, you can own a lot of different things. You can work your whole life to gain whatever. But I will tell you, every person that I have ever met will tell you the most important thing in their life is their children. And I'm a firm believer of that, because I would give up everything. I will sacrifice everything, even my life, for my children. Educators are given the hardest job there is, with the most important thing in a parent's life. And that is to take your child for a large portion of that kid's life, to educate them. We pay them pittance. These schools are crap. They're uncomfortable. They can be hot, they can be cold. The entire system is failing. I have nothing but the utmost respect for educators. They get hammered on from every aspect of society. And it all stems from the top down. We cannot pay our teachers what they deserve if the very top government is constantly running in debt. Period. We cannot build good quality schools, give them the books, the utilities needed to have a successful performance rating if our government from the top, the federal, is running deficits. You can have whatever. You can, I want dental care. Bullshit. Scratch it. I want daycare. Bullshit. Scratch it. Scratch it all. If we cannot educate and treat our children the way they deserve, then the entire system is bullshit. Now, that's my belief. Let me know what you feel in the comments. I'm going to dabble a little wee bit on this. I just want to replay a little wee bit from Daniel Smith. And I want to show you something that's imperative. Now, this is the liberal world we now live in. I have shown these pictures. During this presser, she showed some of the books. And now CPAC. Yes, CPAC. Government subsidized for the freedom of information has edited. Yes, edited the content on their video. So let's just do a quick refresher.
Hello, Premier. Briefly on the school libraries issue. I think most Albertans are on side when it comes to some of the graphic images found in graphic novels. Actually, there's survey data to that effect. But my understanding of the ministerial order is it treats images as interchangeable with written descriptions, and I think that might be opening the door for some of these sorts of bad faith interpretations. Is there any potential of changing or tightening up some of that wording in the order?
Yeah, I mean, if there is some lack of clarity, we'll make sure that we're going through with clarity. But let's be clear, like, we don't want 50 Shades of Grey being in the schools either. That's clearly pornographic material. So let's be clear that there are certain things that make a reference to adult behavior that are perfectly within bounds, but then there are books that are in a genre written for pornography, and that is probably outside the bounds. So I think most people, I didn't see 50 Shades of Grey on there, thank heavens. It means they're already not in the school library. So we've already demonstrated that the school boards do have some discernment. They know that there's a difference. And so I think that we're seeing a little vicious compliance here. I think they're being I think they've been overly aggressive at what they've put on there, and it helps us launch a conversation about when these books should be introduced at what grade. And I think that parents want to be involved in that conversation. So we'll work with them and any other school board that's having problems interpreting the minister's direction.
Just circling back on the books that were released by Edmonton Public School yesterday. It wasn't released by them, but it came out. We understand your objections to certain graphic content in certain books, but this includes, obviously, Margaret Atwood, Brave New World, Maya Angelou. Do you have issue with the books that are on this list, and what next steps are you looking to take?
Look, I think I'm going to have to show the screen here, because people aren't kind of getting what it is we're trying to do here. We are trying to take graphic pornographic images out of elementary schools so that kids are not exposed to age-inappropriate material. So I'm going to leave it on for 15 seconds. I'm warning you that the content may be disturbing and it's not appropriate for young users, because these were the images that parents were showing us that were accessible to children in elementary school libraries. And so we asked school boards to use their discretion to identify books that might not be age appropriate for elementary school children. And then and Edmonton Public is clearly doing a little vicious compliance over what the direction is. And so if they need us to hold their hand through the process to identify what kind of materials are appropriate for senior high school students, what kind of materials are appropriate for junior high school students, and what kind of materials are appropriate for elementary school students, we will more than happily work with them to work through their list one by one so we can be super clear about what it is we're trying to do.
Hey, Daniel, I have to leave them anonymous. They are purposely doing this. I talked to several. They are purposely doing this. This is a concerted effort to try to not only topple your government, but to hide the facts of what they are really teaching in schools. If I was a parent in Edmonton, I would be pulling my kids out of school in protest and every day picketing and sending letters telling the schools, informing the teachers, and informing not only the Edmonton Public Library, but the Teachers Association and the actual union to get out of politics and do your damn job. The worst part is, good teachers can't say anything because they have a new generation of brainwashed teachers who have pretty much, as the saying goes, the squeaky wheel gets the juice.
are trying to take sexually explicit content out of elementary schools that is inappropriate for me to show on the television news at night, and so it is inappropriate for 7-year-olds to see. That's what our objective is.
Thank you.
And we'll go to our next at the mic.
Hi, Premier. Mark Villani with CTV Calgary. You've pretty much answered my question. I had a similar question to the book ban. I just wanted to ask about, some of those other classic texts.
And no, it's not a book ban.
Do you notice how CBC does that? They do this on purpose. They do this on purpose. Propaganda. Listen to the people when they ask the questions. You can tell if they're part of the propaganda, political interference, or if they're actually a media outlet. If they're actually a real journalist. A real journalist does not call this a book ban. This is not a book ban. It is removing pornography out of schools. When you go into a store and you go to the magazine section, the pornographic material is wrapped in plastic so people cannot just start opening the books. Kids do not have access to opening those books. But yet in the schools, you can walk right in, you can go right over to the section, doesn't matter what age you are, if a teacher isn't actually forcing the child to read it, they have full access to pornographic material. This is not a book ban. This is ridiculous. What I tell you, the conversation, I am just in shock about a lot of new information that I have found out in the course of the last 4 days. Sickening.
Pardon me, sorry?
It's not a book ban.
I just wanted to ask about this list here. One of the books on the list was Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. I know in the past you've said that Rand is a hero.
Fabulous
guiding
book,
light
by
of
the way.
yours, documented as far back as the 2010 and 2012 elections. Just any thoughts on that book being removed from this list, and any other classic texts that are concerning to be taken away?
I didn't read Atlas Shrugged until I was 22. I had a friend in grade 10 who read it. Maybe we should make it mandatory reading in high school because it is a pretty influential book, and I think it does really articulate how important it is that we value our entrepreneurs and we value a free enterprise economy. So maybe that should give you some idea. Maybe you don't read passages of Ayn Rand in kindergarten reading time, but maybe when you get to be in junior high or high school, the level of understanding about the concepts in there are absolutely appropriate for school children of that age.
Hi, my name's Leah Mushett for the Western Standard. I was going to ask you similarly about the public school, Edmonton public school thing. Also, do you think that the board there, like banning those classic books, not the sexually explicit ones, do you think that's also a way for them to kind of point the finger at the government at all? What do you think?
Well, we trust the judgment of our school boards, and that's because we do have a more decentralized system, and they've identified books.
By the way, two of the people on that school board are heavy NDP supporters. I'm talking full-fledged, both feet in, up to the waist NDP supporters.
That in their interpretation may have problematic content, and so my education minister has pledged to work with any school board who might be confused about what it is we're trying to accomplish, so that we can go through and we can identify which school books are appropriate for elementary, which are appropriate for junior high, and which are appropriate for high school. I think that they've overreached on this policy. They've obviously put books on there that there was never any intention of having them target those books, but I think we need to exercise a little judgment here. I think we made it super clear, the things that prompted this policy, and if we need to be a bit more graphic, there's lots of other images, but that's the point. Graphic images depicting the kind of acts that I just showed in the video are not appropriate for elementary school kids. That's our starting point, and if we need to refine the policy with the school boards because they're not understanding it, then we will go through that with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's what you have to do, Danielle. They are doing this to spite parents, to spite you. They are using propaganda. They are doing exactly what they've done for the last 12, 15 years. This is how the Liberal Party got in, and this is how they got away with removing parental rights. This is disgusting behavior. And like I said, I'm really hoping I can get a better dialogue, have some very good conversations with these teachers who have reached out to me. And if you're a teacher as well and you want to voice your opinion, or you want to come forward, and I understand that there are obligations and there are things that you are not allowed to talk about. I mean, which is another just disgusting thing that I found out. It is our schools have become, well, perpetual propaganda machines. Now I already know how they're not educators, they're indoctrinators. You don't go to school to learn, you go to school to be indoctrinated. And there are great teachers out there who know how to work the system and be able to do their job, which kudos to you out there. And I'm not saying all teachers are bad. The vast majority of them are fabulous. But there are hundreds, if not thousands, who have retired early because of the curriculum and because of what they are forced to do against their religion, against their moral integrity, against what it was once to be a proud Canadian. Incredibly sad. I'm in shock. I really am. Now, I'm going to move on from this. There's a lot to report on here, and I want to start with this. Senator Woon Pao Woo. This, be scared, Canada. Be scared. I'm gonna play a little wee bit of a presser he had. He just, a senator came out and made an announcement. Woo! Yeah, let's hear it.
We are pleased to announce today the launch of this new organization, Canadians United Against Modern Exclusion, which is a non-partisan, not-for-profit organization.
Non-partisan. I want you to listen carefully to what this guy is saying.
Registered under the Canada Not-for-Profit Corporation.
So he can register under a not-for-profit, but yet if you are Catholic, Muslim, or any other religion that doesn't believe in abortion or some type of control, you're going to lose your status. This goes for churches. I've reported on this in previous episodes. The Vatican's wrote the government of Canada about this, taxing the churches and removing all of the status, and we're going to lose the majority of incredible programs for our youth because they don't follow an ideology. But let's just listen to how a communist thinks.
Act. The goal of CUAME is to defend Canadians whose rights and freedoms have been compromised because of false or exaggerated claims of foreign interference, national security overreach, and fear of the other.
The other.
This is a particular problem today and in recent years because of the heightened geopolitical conflict and the rise of populist nationalism. There has been a turn in many countries, including in Canada, to punish their citizens for not conforming to a rigid idea of the national interest, or simply for having benign ties with foreign entities.
All right, I'm not even going to play anymore. As always, I post all the links down below. You can watch this propaganda. This is disgusting. Now, let's just blow the lid off who this guy is, okay? So, oh my gosh, this is just disgusting behavior. Okay, so let's start here. Senator Woon Pao Woo claims the state drove former Liberal MP hanged on from office on suspicions of foreign interference. Now, I reported on this. I was one of the people that broke the stories. I think one of the first, at least 2 or 3. There he is. Yeah. Who's he with? Well, he's literally with CCP and the organizations that are used to, well, pay off and get politicians put in. But it doesn't end there. This keeps going on and on. Trudeau appointed Canadian Senator Woon Pao Woo, doing what he does in a BC meeting again with some of the Canada Committee 100. If you don't know who the Canada Committee 100 is, check out my previous episodes, especially if they're labeled Sam Cooper. The one, the only, Sam Cooper. some of the media intellects I pointed in my UF tape recording. He literally has a recording of Senator Woon Pao Woo doing what he does, selling out Canadians. He's part of the CCP. This person has no right to be in any political powerful position, let alone the Senate. He must be removed. Now, he's one of many who are part of these dark organizations that are fighting to not have a foreign agent registry. Why? Well, first of all, he'll be on it, as well as 11 or more MPs in the Liberal Party, who, by the way, elbows up elected them again. Previous episodes, people. Now, it just keeps going. Now, I could go on all of the people who are involved. I'm just going to dabble on one more senator who is, part of this whole new thing. Okay? So, this is Senator O. He's the guy sitting beside this guy announcing. Yes, he's part of it. And who is he? Well, here he is speaking to the Chinese Community Association, urging everyone to sign the petition that Senator Wu drafted, petition E4395, to help oppose the proposed Foreign Influence Transparency Registry, which, by the way, passed, and the Liberals have put how many people on there? Zero. Zilch. Nada. Why? Because they are corrupt. The Liberal Party is corrupt to the core. This all ties into all of the reporting that I do whenever Sam the Man Cooper comes up, as well as a lot of other great media outlets and myself with my own personal information that I have found and have talked about on previous episodes. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. It doesn't end there, though. Senator Victor O and Yoon Pao Woo celebrate the 74th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China over champagne with Ambassador Kong Peo after organizing a protest against a foreign agent registry and a busy summer in Beijing. There's thousands of pages and pictures and recordings of evidence proving these two people are bought and paid for. They don't have Canada's interest, just like the Liberal Party doesn't have Canada's interest in mind. This is disgusting. Elbows up, everybody. Now, let's go on to where are we today?
Yeah. David Aiken, Global News. Good morning. I'd like you to get you to talk a little bit about the budget process, the kind of discussions Cabinet and caucus are going to have, and also in this context, after defense, the two biggest departments spending-wise, Indigenous Services and CERNA. The AFN is meeting in Winnipeg, and there's many Indigenous governments are worried they will disproportionately take the cuts. So can you speak about the spending review and the discussions you'll have in that context?
Thank you. So the first thing in terms of our approach to budgeting, and we've said this from the start, is to spend less so that Canadians can invest more. And my opening comments, the context for this meeting, what Canadians have been living through since the start of the year with all the economic uncertainty, it's never been more important. So we need to set up the country to invest. The government needs to spend precious taxpayers' dollars as carefully as possible. So big focus on reducing our operational spending. Think of it as our day-to-day spending.
Blah, 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 blah. Moving ahead.
Look, it's both. It's both. The federal government has been growing spending as a whole at over 7% a year on average for over a decade. That's twice the rate of growth of the economy on average. It's not a sustainable situation. So we need to rein in spending. we need to find efficiencies. We're in the process of finding efficiencies. One of the big elements of the discussions over the next 2 days will be about those efficiencies. It won't be the final discussion of that. We'll continue to work on this right up to the budget. So we need to do that. But at the same time, we need to invest as a country. And it's finding those efficiencies. It's the responsible thing to do with Canadians' money. This is Canadians' money. It's not the government's money. It's a responsible thing to do with that. But in finding...
Again, he loves doing this. He's learnt the art of wasting time. So let's just have the guy who should be running our country right now put this in layman's terms.
Yes. So far, Mark Carney has not found a single penny in new savings. While he promised to spend less, in the 5 months he's been Prime Minister, he's increased the cost of the government by 8%. 33% more federal public servants are earning over $100,000 under Mark Carney. He's increased the cost of consultants by 37%. And if you believe economists, they calculate Mark Carney's deficit could be twice as big as Justin Trudeau's, which is unimaginable. No one thought it was possible to have a worse deficit than Trudeau, but Mark Carney appears to have accomplished it. What I would say to everyone is, ignore Mark Carney's speeches, the letters he writes his ministers, which then get conveniently leaked to the media. It doesn't matter what he says. It matters what he does. And the numbers are very stubborn things. They show that Mark Carney is even more expensive than Justin Trudeau, that the deficit is getting bigger, and that will mean more inflation and more economic ruin for our country. Mark Carney is not a change, he is worse. We need to cut consultants, bureaucracy, corporate welfare, foreign aid, handouts to fraudulent refugees, and other wasted money. We need to bring down the cost of government to bring down the cost of living with lower taxes, inflation, and debt. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Jaspreet.
Yeah.
News.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, Mr. Poilievre called this morning on the government to scrap the temporary foreign worker program. Is it time to shut the program down?
Well, I would say the following, which is that that program has a role. It has to be focused in terms of its role. And it's part of what we're reviewing. It's part of what we will be discussing, how well the temporary foreign worker program is working and how our overall immigration system is working. We've been absolutely clear as a government that we want, and we're putting in place policies so that the overall level of immigration as a proportion of the population will decline from around 7% today to around 5% several years from now. Now,
the
biggest contributor to immigration is not temporary foreign workers, it's a variety of other factors. And I will say, et je vais répéter en français parce que c'est important, when I talk to businesses around the country, particularly...
Oh, enough. See what I mean? On and on and on. How about give us some numbers? Oh, okay. Let's get some numbers.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Rempel-Garner, and I'm the Member of Parliament for Calgary-Nose Hill and the Conservative Immigration Critic. I'm joined today by MP Garnet Jennis, the Conservative Shadow Minister for Employment, to help make an important announcement that will give some hope back to young Canadians. And boy, do they ever need some hope. Many young Canadians can't imagine buying a home or starting a family without a good paying job. Yet they can't secure those jobs without experience, which they can't gain because they can't find an entry-level job. It wasn't always this way, though. Once upon a time, not long ago, if you were a young Canadian, you could earn vital skills in an entry-level job and earn enough to pay for school while saving. In return, employers would benefit from a skilled, productive domestic labor workforce. But that social contract has been broken by the Liberals. Canada is experiencing a staggering youth unemployment crisis. And all summer, we heard countless gut-punching stories about young Canadians who have put out hundreds of resumes without getting as much as a single callback. Behind me are some of those young people. We have Sana Shahid, who's worked in quality assurance and has not been able to find work in over a year. We have Aruma Dana, who completed security guard training, yet still can't find permanent work. And we also have Gabrielle James, who completed specialized training in analysis and reporting, and yet can't find stable employment. These folks want to work. They've made the right decisions, they did their training, but they still can't get a leg up. Things are so bad that 1 in 5 students are returning to school this week who looked for a job this summer and didn't find one, in large part because they're competing with temporary foreign workers for scarce entry-level jobs. All this is happening while the cost of housing is so high that many young Canadians aren't thinking about buying a house. And they wonder how they're going to get seen by a doctor if they need health care. And where have the Liberals been on this issue this summer? Absolutely nowhere. Nowhere. But thankfully, Conservatives have worked all summer, and today we are announcing the first in a series of major reforms that we will be demanding from the Liberal government to make sure that Canadian jobs go to Canadians. Unlike the Liberals, Conservatives aren't afraid to tackle the toughest issues facing young Canadians and Canadian workers head-on, including Canada's utterly broken immigration system. And now, to make this very hopeful announcement, it's my great pleasure to introduce the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre.
So I'm going to scroll ahead. The link is below. You can watch this in its entirety. Mainstream's doing what they love to do best. They are picking video clips and sound bites to try to perpetrate him in any which way they can, to demonize him, to make it sound like he's some instigator. He's trying to bring awareness to Canadians, and the media is doing the opposite. Right now they're all, oh, the Liberals are having their caucus. It's not the typical Trudeau. Oh, people are coming in and out, and oh, it's such a relaxed atmosphere, and blah, blah, blah. Bullcrap. Propaganda. Facts.
Everyone, thank you, Michelle Rempel and Garnet Jenis, for your hard work on behalf of Canadians. We're here to bring hope to the hopeless. We have behind us some very talented and hardworking people who cannot get jobs here in Canada. And let's be honest, young people today form what I call Generation Screwed. Let's look at the situation for this generation. It is the first generation that cannot afford a home in Canadian history. And now, the double gut punch. They have the highest, or the worst employment numbers of any group of young people since the late 1990s. So you can't get a job, and even if you did have a job, you can never buy a home after 10 years of Liberal government. The Liberals doubled housing costs. They unleashed crime and chaos in our communities with their soft laws. They broke our immigration system by allowing too many, too fast, too easily to come into the country. And they have destroyed our economy by pushing investment out of our country. Now, Mark Carney promised that he would be different. He has been worse than Justin Trudeau in almost every objective measurement. Let's go through the promises. He promised to build, baby, build. Well, far from doubling home building as he promised, home building is expected to drop by 13%, according to his own housing agency. As for major national projects, 5 months in, and there's not a single national project that Mr. Carney has even identified, much less permitted, much less having shovels in the ground. Not one pipeline, not one mine, not one major expansion of a port. All we have is meetings, offices, new bureaucracies, new high-paid big shots with big salaries who have thus far achieved absolutely nothing.
Now, I'm going to cut him off for a second, and I want to show you this is quite incredible. Here is a fact.
Fact 3. The polar bear capital's secret. Everyone knows Churchill, Manitoba as the polar bear capital of the world. But here's what most people don't know. The polar bears there are actually prisoners of geography, and it's created one of evolution's most remarkable survival strategies. The western shore of Hudson Bay is where the ice forms last and melts first. This means polar bears in this region experience the longest ice-free period of any polar bear population on Earth, sometimes up to 5 months without access to their primary food source, seals. To survive, these bears have developed an extraordinary ability to enter a state called walking hibernation. They slow their metabolism by up to 60% while remaining active, essentially becoming living zombies that can survive on almost no food for months. It's a biological adaptation found nowhere else in the polar bear world, and it might be their key to surviving climate change. Fact 4.
Now, what's going to happen when for the short season these bears have adapted to live through in order to hunt and gain the nourishment needed for such a long starving time period, when you have icebreakers and ships stopping them from getting their meal? This is only one of the unprecedented environmental impacts, ecological impacts that trying to run 365 days a year through the Hudson's Bay is going to do. This is gotta be one of the dumbest. I mean, if you think you're a greener and you think Hudson's Bay that's the shizits, that's the place to get it, you really gotta do your homework. And again, I post this video, everything's there in the description. This is great. It's 16 shocking secrets about Hudson's Bay. Fabulous knowledge, like it's got one of the fastest growing islands because we're still rising from the pressure that was put on us from thousands of years ago when we were all covered in ice. You know, the indigenous, we've been here for millennia. Bullshit, lies. It was all covered in ice. This is a great little documentary. Now, let's get back to Pierre.
Crime continues to rage on our streets, with Mr. Carney keeping in place all of the catch and release liberal laws. And Mr. Carney has kept all of Justin Trudeau's immigration numbers.
Now, let's deal with these laws. So, the police are seeking witnesses after a failed home invasion in Vaughan. This was last night. What's he holding? Do you hear them screaming? They're screaming, get out of here. Is he stopping? What do you think that homeowner had that scared a man with a gun away? I wonder. Interesting. Now, we're just gonna keep on going here. This is crime. This is liberals' heaven.
On a daytime stabbing at a grocery store in the city's West End, the incident leaving a woman with critical injuries and shoppers shaken. It happened at the Loblaws at College Square on Baseline Road around 1:35 this afternoon. CTV's Austin.
Now, I'm not
Lee
going to
joins
play
us
the
now
whole
with
thing
the
because it's all
details.
propaganda. They don't tell you the truth. The truth? What's the truth? Well, here's the truth. The guy who did it is Joe Rook. I am under no obligation whatsoever, legal, moral, or otherwise, to like Jews, and I do not. If that means I meet the Jewish definition of an anti-Semite, so be it. In actual fact, I own an obligation to humanity to speak out against Israel's ongoing attempt of genocide, blah, 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 blah. I support worldwide protests, blah, 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 blah. Make no mistake, religion, all of them, and the utter absurdity in their belief that gods exist is the root cause of much suffering and premature death. This is the new version of atheism. This is the Trudeau version, the leftist version of atheism. That all people who find belief in something that they would call a god or a creator are evil and must be removed. Thus, you take away their charitable status, you persecute them, you don't allow them to actually go to their own, to a church and actually try to raise money to bring awareness. This is the new fascist society that we are now part of. This is the new Canadian post-national state, elbows up liberals that want this. This is them. This isn't real Canadians. This is the new Canadians. This is the post-national Canadians. And I'm not going to stop there. Well, why would we? When you can just keep going. Israel as it exists today is biblically contrived state. It has also become a very evil state controlled by the very worst of the Jewish political and religious hierarchy. Blah, 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 blah. I'll post all the links. You can read this all to yourself. And it doesn't end there. It just keeps going. The Government of Canada, Canadians and humanity. Any Canadian who believes in the general goodness of Canadians has to question the veracity of Canada's international reputation. We cannot ignore, but we manage not to acknowledge the fact that almost every day Israeli soldiers assassinate starving Gazans merely struggling to get food. This guy is brainwashed. This is a CBC CTV propaganda brainwashed individual. This guy is a nutbar. This is all posted. Hate speech. It's all hate speech. I'm not allowed to even read this. I get censored. But this guy, he not only gets to keep talking about it, gets a little bit of a fan base with a bunch of these other Hamas supporters, these evildoers. Where were the police? They have laws. Oh, right. He's not a Christian, practicing his faith, singing, trying to, gather people in public places, not on streets, in parks, in nice places where they can get and sing and praise to whatever God they want to praise to. I don't care. These guys are psycho. It keeps going. It doesn't end. How long? On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Jews imprisoned in the Nazi death camp in Auschwitz, Poland, there are two lessons remembered, although one is always ignored. Adolf Hitler ordered the Nazi SS soldiers to eliminate 6 million Jews imprisoned in the German camps. That's a tragic fact. Nobody should be forgotten. The second disproves the greatest lie in Judaism, the ridiculous belief that the Jewish people are the chosen people of a non-existent God. No God protected the Jewish people. These two lessons should never be forgotten. Blah, 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 blah. Psychopath. This guy's a psychopath. Doesn't end.
A quiet neighborhood in Vaughan has been left shaken tonight after an alleged home invasion took a turn for the worst, leaving one man dead. Our Nick Westall joins us from the scene. And Nick, you've been there all day. What's the latest on the investigation?
Yeah, Brandon, as the concerning nature of this investigation becomes more apparent, there is still an active police presence in this Kleinberg neighborhood as officers say the search is on for multiple suspects after a 46-year-old man has died.
It was a shock. How are we going to be prepared for a thing like this?
Benjamin Cabral is a longtime resident in this suburban neighborhood, and he reflects on his time here.
It was so quiet. It was really nice neighbors. We talked to everybody. Everybody says hi. And it happens that at your door, it's not a joke. How many couples pass with 2-3 kids? It's lovely.
News of a homicide a block away is not sitting well. Many people were afraid to speak on camera. It was at around 1 a.m. when York Regional Police officers say they...
Afraid to speak on camera. Canada has fallen. After 10 years of fascist regime power, this is Canada.
They were called to a home on Andrietta Drive.
I saw some lights flashing by from my window from upstairs, and I looked outside. There was a bunch of police patrol cars just driving around.
The neighborhood resident says he was startled by a police helicopter.
And almost like a movie kind of a scene where you're like, why is there a helicopter in the sky shining a light? It was kind of surreal because I wouldn't expect it from this neighborhood.
Officers described the incident as a home invasion. They say the victim, identified as Abdul Alim Farouki, was found with traumatic injuries and died at the scene. It's not clear how he died. Officers...
Pardon me? It's not clear how he died? Traumatic injuries? What? Say what? Here's what the media wasn't saying. This was released immediately after it happened. They knew exactly what was going on. They didn't want to tell you. Why? Because Pierre Poilievre just came out with his own version of a kind of semi-socialist castle law. Which isn't castle law. Previous episodes. It's not castle law. It's not even really stand your ground. In fact, it's nowhere neither close to that. The murder and robbery in Vaughan is so much worse than you think. Thank you, by the way, Mario Zelaya. This guy is incredible. And he's got a huge fan base that reach out to him. And he is not afraid to post the truth. I'm a big fan of Mario. They put a gun to the guy's daughter's head. He was the husband of father of 3, and his family watched him. Dear residents of Vaughan, this shooting, where a father of 3 kids died, was a family friend of mine. It was a robbery which went wrong. The robbers put a gun to the guy's daughter's head and demanded all valuables, and then the family had to watch the robbers kill their father. How much longer are we going to let these criminals terrorize our communities? When will the government bring reform to the system which encourages criminals to commit these acts because they know the system is so weak, even if they get caught, it's simple catch and release. Now, police associations. This letter came out right after Sean Fraser, one of the worst MPs I have ever seen in my life. Everything Sean touches, immigration, housing, like just everything he has ever touched, he has destroyed. After he came out saying, oh, and he come out with this bull crap, typical propaganda, the police associations let this letter go. Police associations call for immediate legislative change with Canada's bail system. Once again, after another serious incident of gun violence in our communities, the Police Association and the OPP and the Toronto Police Association are united in asking the federal government to take some leadership in the safety of our members and the communities they serve. This week in Toronto, while doing a bail compliance check, officers of the Toronto Police Service were caught in the middle of an active shootout between rival groups. 16 guns were seized, 23 arrested, including a young offender with 3 firearm prohibitions. This time, luckily, no one was harmed. There are many examples throughout Ontario of accused persons out on bail who were rearrested shortly after being granted bail, including the alleged murder of a police officer. Many of these cases don't make the news. Did you hear that? Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to get censored like bejesus again because of what I am saying on this episode. I'm just reading you. I'm reading you what the police want every single Canadian to hear. I'm going to get censored because I said these words. This is crazy, the world we're living in, and only you can fix it by like, sharing, and subscribing. I'm just in shock. This letter is just intense. February 2024, Elliott Lake, a man with a history of assaults and breaching bail conditions, was arrested once again for violating bail conditions after a short time in getting out of jail. The PAO, OPPA, and TPA, collectively representing 35 police members, are asking members in Ontario asking the federal government to take immediate action. Blah, 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 blah. Bail reform must strike a balance between public safety and the rights of the accused. The public respects the name of the public safety. Violent and repeat offenders will not be released on bail unless there is compelling reason and a sensible plan to ensure that they will not risk reoffending while awaiting trial. Over the past 2 years, we've seen incidents related to our bail system that have put the lives of police service members and our communities in danger. Blah, 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 blah. Again, I'll post this. You can read it in its entirety. This isn't even on X. You don't even have to be part of it. It's literally on the internet. It's right there. You need to read this. You need to share it. Canada has to, especially Eastern Canada, they have to see this. This is what the media refuses to do. They refuse to do their job. Here's some more. September 3rd, investigators at the York Regional Police Homicide Unit are appealing for witnesses in a Richmond Hill arson who left one person dead and 4 in critical condition. On Monday, September 1st, officers responded to a report of a house fire. The area Skywood Drive and Rolling Hill Road. Police, along with Richmond Hill Fire Police Services, York Police Paramedic Services, attended the residence. 4 victims were found in the residence, and a 5th victim was located outside. All 5 victims were transported to hospital in critical condition. The incident is now being blah, blah, blah. Somebody literally lit the house on fire while there were people inside. Now they're going to call it arson. I call it attempted murder. This is Canada, people. This is Canada. Now the mayor of Vaughan came out. He actually had the brother talk. I'm running out of time. I'm not going to play it. I'm just going to play one little wee clip that I just listen carefully.
When I said earlier that at the local level we've invested, we have.
This is what's happening to provinces, to cities, to towns. The federal government, because of their inept ignorance, their childlike ideological behavior, absolute narcissistic idiocracy, has not only bankrupted our country, is forcing all of their jurisdictions underneath them into huge debt. Because it's out of these guys' control. These cities, these provinces they're spending mass amounts of money trying to do what they can. They can't fix federal politics. Only voters can. These liberals need to go to jail. We need to get the news out. I'm so frustrated with what's going on.
York Region Council supported a York Regional Police budget increase last year that was, I think, unprecedented. Over 2 years, 2025 and projected for 26, more than 300 new staff, the lion's share of them being frontline officers, a good chunk of them coming to Vaughan. 2 new substations, including one in Kleinburg, that we helped support directly. We, at the local level, are doing everything possible. I heard Premier Ford speak about Aleem's murder just yesterday when he was speaking in Kitchener. He obviously spoke very passionately, with a great deal of emotion and care. I've yet to hear from the federal government.
He's yet to hear from the federal government. How about media? I urge you to watch this. It's disgusting. Absolute insanity. How about this one? They added that during a home invasion, 54-year-old man was shot. When officers arrived, police said 5 suspects tried to flee but were arrested. This is just crazy. This is from Riot Garrison. Officers later recovered a loaded firearm and stolen vehicle at the scene. A 5th suspect was able to get away. The police described him as a male between 18 and 25 years of age, wearing dark clothing, a mask, and gloves. Meanwhile, the woman, who was located a short time later in Toronto with minor injuries, and her vehicle was recovered nearby, police said. 2 of the 4 arrest suspects have been identified as 20-year-old Shakir Bati and 20-year-old Perkaran Banglia. Are you getting this? Do I actually need to go further? This is immigration out of control. Add that to purposeful laws put in place to spread fear, hate, and division with chaos. This is planned. I urge you to watch the Liberals' true platform, previous episode. This is all being done on purpose, people. They have an agenda. I'm going to get back. Here's Pierre Poilievre.
Would you consider shining a spotlight using your bully pulpit on the worst offenders? For example, maybe a company that really wraps itself in the Canadian flag, like Tim Hortons. Would you consider having an event outside of Tim Hortons? Would you consider writing to the board of directors of RBI and the Brazilian hedge fund? And I guess what I'm saying is there's no downside to these companies hiring foreign workers. But if there was a PR downside, if patriotic Canadians said, this is enough. I notice in the UK there's a lot of people waving British and English flags. It's their response to immigration crises. Would you consider naming and shaming in the public domain abusers of the TFW program?
Yes, and thank you for the question. Michelle Rempel has already begun the process. She's been publishing the most egregious cases of corporate elites profiting by shutting Canadians out of jobs in favor of low-wage temporary foreign workers. And Michelle, do you want to add anything to that? Sure. Come on over.
No, thanks for the question, Ezra. It's absolutely egregious that these companies expect that they can just maximize corporate profits on the backs of and at the expense of Canadian youth. It's a practice that has to end. We've been naming and shaming them all week. I want to thank my team for finding those examples, but I encourage Canadians to go and look for themselves. There's been websites that have been set up so that people can see what these companies are doing. But the more important thing is, Ezra, that the Liberals are letting them do this.
The Liberals have allowed this. In fact, they have been helping corporations to slowly take over Canada. Again, previous episodes, they're almost in total domination of our resources. They have manipulated it to such a degree that now that the general is sitting in the Prime Minister's chair, he's going to execute what is needed to finish taking complete control out of the hands of Canadians, out of our bank accounts, in order to make them rich. Where are you going with this, Alias? Here's how I'm going to end the episode. For all you that think Tim Hortons, proud Canadian. Now, I haven't gone to Tim Hortons. I have got, 40 different gift cards that have been given to me and my wife and other family that they all just kind of thrown because they're like, Timmy's blew it. Absolutely blew it. Tim Hortons has undergone a significant evolution in terms of corporate ownership since its inception. From its humble beginnings as a single coffee and donut shop in Hamilton, Ontario, the brand has transitioned through several ownership changes that have shaped its identity and trajectory in the fast food industry. The company's journey through ownership changes began in 1995, when Tim Hortons was acquired by Wendy's International Incorporated, leading to a period of co-branding and expansion. Subsequently, in 2014, Tim Hortons merged with Burger King to form Restaurant Brands International, which became the parent company of both iconic brands. This merger marked a new chapter for Tim Hortons as it gained access to global markets and resources under RBI's umbrella. Through these ownership changes, Tim Hortons has diversified its offerings, expanding and its international presence, and navigated the challenges of a competitive market landscape. The brand's evolution reflects its resilience and adaptability to meeting demands of consumers while staying true to its Canadian patriot roots. Who owns Tim Hortons now? Following multiple ownership transitions, Tim Hortons is currently owned by Restaurant Brands International, a multinational fast food holding industry formed at the 2014 merger, blah, 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 blah. Tim Hortons now operates under the same corporate umbrella as Burger King and Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. Restaurant Brands International is publicly traded and listed company on the Toronto Stock Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange. The majority of RBI shares are held by major institutional investors and asset management firms. The company's ownership structure reflects a mix of institutional ownership alongside individual investors who hold shares through stock exchanges. Oh, but there's more. One of the closest links between the two companies, which is Brookfield and RBI, comes from their common association with billionaire investor Bill Ackman's Pershing Group hedge fund. Pershing Group holds significant positions in both Brookfield Corporation and Restaurant Brands International, among a high concentrated portfolio of 10 stocks that also include Uber and Alphabet. This means that while RBI and Brookfield operate independently, they attract investments from the same large institutional shareholders. Global elite. They have been slowly taking Canada over. The Trudeau Carney Liberals have fast-tracked this. They don't care about you. Now, like I said earlier, I don't shop at Tim Hortons since the Wuhan. I don't. I want no part of them after what they did. How they decided to take people who literally couldn't take the pokey poke and said, sorry, you're not coming to our parks. Even though if they would have took it, there was a 90% chance they were going to have an adverse effect. They never did change that. They just said, nope, period, you gotta be pokey poked or you're not part of this. And then pushed all of the rest of the the lies and the propaganda and the bullshit. Why? Because they're investors, people. They're all part of the global elite. Tim Hortons is as Canadian as Donald J. Trump is. The Liberal Party doesn't care about you. All they care about is their investors. All they care about is their ideology. Now, there's a lot more going on. I ran out of time. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. It's the only way Canadians are going to get a chance to get the truth. That's just the way it is. We live in a world of propaganda and censorship. And trust me, this episode, I'm going to get doubly nailed because I said a lot of bad words. Ooh, bad words. Yeah, stuff that they can say if you're part of the media Trudeau Carney propaganda, but not if you're just the independent trying to get the truth out. Sorry, so sorry. Just the truth, just the facts. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. You can always help the channel by purchasing some of our wicked clothing and merch at the store down below, or you can donate to the email scrolling across the screen, also posted in the description. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm Elias the Guy. You've been watching Canadian Citizen Journal. Stay informed.